is and should be a touchdown. Here we go. Bryson Barnes has got his back behind him. It is Jaquindon Jackson. Here's the snap. Bryson Barnes looking deep. He's got a man. It's caught! He's gone! Touchdown early! And good evening, everybody, and welcome to College Football Wraparound. I'm Cooper Naylor, and tonight, well, it's Preview Wednesday, meaning that we're going to preview some of the best games of the week. That's not the four that we're going to be talking about on Saturday morning stream. So, of course, this has been a wild season, and so we've got a lot to get into tonight. Of course, this is strictly just basically previewing games. There's nothing else I can tell you other than we're previewing football games tonight. So here we go. So tonight we're starting with a Big Ten matchup. One that's this is considered the Penix Bowl tonight, or not tonight, but Saturday morning at 11 a.m. College Game Day will be there, and that game is Washington and Indiana. I got to say this before I start. Who would have thought at the beginning of the season that Washington and Indiana would actually be like high on the radar as one of the best games of the week? I mean, I don't know of anybody that would have told me that. So, I mean, hey, this is an incredible season so far. So Washington's 4-3, Indiana sitting at 7-0. Indiana 4-0 in conference, Washington 2-2. So, so far, what have I seen? Indiana, you got to start with them. They are a very balanced football team that's played. I mean, they've had a good season so far. Biggest win so far, definitely last week's win against Nebraska at home. Now you got a Washington team who's going to be flying from on the other side of the country. This is a very interesting football game, okay? Because you got Washington, who's got the Mississippi State transfer Will Rogers as their quarterback. Who, I mean, hey, he's doing it. He's had a pretty decent season so far. He's gone 153 of 212 for 1,820 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's not bad if you're looking at it from Will Rogers from Washington. Then you look at Indiana, Curtis Rourke. Now, here's the thing. Curtis Rourke, he's had a good season so far, but from what I've seen, I don't think he's going to be playing Saturday. He had thumb surgery after that thumb injury he suffered against Nebraska. It's going to be Taven Jackson taking the reins for Indiana. Going to be very interesting to see how he does for Indiana Saturday morning. So you look at the run game. Coleman for Washington, he's had 99 carries, 681 yards, 5 touchdowns. Ellison for Indiana, 73 carries, 514 yards, 8 touchdowns. So I think this is going to be a very interesting football game, to say the least. I feel like this is going to be one where, I mean, if you think about it, this is going to be, I feel like for Washington, you got to be able to throw the ball effectively, because Dylan Raiola, he didn't throw the ball good. He threw 3 interceptions. That lost the game, plus some with all the other, just the bad defense Nebraska played. So 56-7 was the score of Indiana, Nebraska. So if you're Washington, I feel like you got to play good enough defense. But I feel like you got your work cut out for you. I mean, you think about it, Curtis Rourke's not playing. Curtis Rourke is a really great quarterback for Indiana. So I think you look at this game, Indiana without Curtis Rourke, Washington, can they really play against that Indiana defense? It's going to be very interesting to see. According to ESPN right now, about 84% of people say Indiana's going to win this football game. So, of course, They're Washington, not very highly thought of as they could potentially win this game. So look for this to be a very interesting football game Saturday. Okay. And it may turn out to be a blowout. We don't know. But like I said, Curtis Rourke's not playing. I think that's going to make a huge difference for this ball game. I think it's going to be a close ball game. This is going to be one that you're going to want to watch Saturday. Big Ten Network will be showing the game 11 a.m. Should be a really fun football game, to say the least. All righty. So now we move into some other football games. And what about Kansas and Kansas State? Now, Kansas coming to the season, we thought they would be a whole lot better. They're 2-5 right now. That's not real. That's not great. Jalen Daniels has just had a rough season. He's 103 of 182, 13-12 through the air, 10 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And then you look at Avery Johnson, 111 for 178, 1,401 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions for Kansas State. Kansas State, I feel like here's a team that is going to run the ball, and then right as you start really effectively playing against that, like defending that run game, then you got Avery Johnson who's going to hit you with a deep shot. And I think really what you're about to see in this ball game, and I mean, I'll say this. I think you've got two mobile quarterbacks in Avery Johnson and Jalen Daniels. I'm not going to lie. I think they're two very mobile quarterbacks. But I think Avery Johnson's a better quarterback right now. So if I'm Kansas State, what I'm doing here, I'm going to give the ball to Giddens a lot. But then once they commit to the run, that's when I'm going to do a little play action or RPO action and make you have to defend that pass. That's what I'm doing if I'm Kansas State. Now, if I'm Kansas, on the other hand, first of all, you got to figure out how do you defend this offense of Kansas State, like I said. Secondly, you got to find ways to make Jalen Daniels affect the game himself. Because for Kansas, it all comes down to, can Jalen Daniels have a good game and provide you what you need at the end of the day? So quarterback play, very big in this football game Saturday. It's going to be a 7 o'clock game, ESPN2. Going to be it's an interesting football game. I'll say that. It's one that if I had the chance to, I'd probably watch the entirety of it. So, of course, it's an interesting football game. According to ESPN, 75% of people say Kansas State's going to win this football game. Again, even though the odds say one thing, it's still going to be a very interesting football game. So do keep that in mind. And so, I mean, yeah, this is going to be a fun football game for anybody to watch. So if you're looking for a good football game Saturday, this should be one. All right, let's turn our attention now to Michigan State and Michigan. And right now, I'll say this. At the beginning of the season, I don't think many people thought this was going to be a close football game, just considering the fact that Michigan, defending national champions, we thought they would be better than what they are. They're sitting at 4-3. They're 2-2 in conference. Really, this has not been the season that Michigan's wanted. They're coming off of I believe it was 21-7 that they got beat to Illinois. So if you're Michigan right now, you're in a very interesting spot. And the reason why I say this is, like I said, you just won the national championship, and now you're sitting here and you've got to really figure out what is the issues here. Now, I believe Tuttle was their starting quarterback last week against Illinois. If you're Michigan, the Jack Tuttle, if you remember, he started his career at Indiana. And so I believe he was the starting quarterback for Michigan. I don't think he did great. And then you look at Michigan State. They got Jonathan Smith as their head coach. And you've got Aiden Childs, who came over with Jonathan Smith. Now, the beginning of the season, Michigan State is a little rocky, but now they find themselves 4-3, and this has now become a very interesting football game. Now, 67% of people are saying Michigan's going to win this football game. Again, I'm looking at ESPN. So 33% of people say Michigan State can win this ball game. I got to be honest. I got to say that I think this is going to be a whole lot closer than what a lot of people are going to give credit to, because I think that, again, Michigan, to me, they don't have an offense. If they don't have an offense, then I don't think I can really trust them to efficiently play against Michigan State. Now, I think if you look at the stats, though, Aiden Shiles for Michigan State, he's 108 of 1 for 182, 1,468 yards, 6 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Not great. Then you look at Davis Warren, who is the leading quarterback for Michigan, and this is bad. 48 of 72, 444 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I mean, my goodness. For Michigan. And then Alex Orgy's played. He hasn't been great. Jack Tuttle, like I said, hasn't been great for Michigan. They just cannot figure out who's the guy. And so that's going to come to hurt them in this football game. Michigan State, I think, has a slight edge in this football game. That's just my opinion. But Michigan could win this football game. But think about it this way. It's Jonathan Smith's first year at Michigan State. And for Michigan, Sharon Moore, first year for him as well. So I think there's a lot that we can look at. Plus, you got to think about this. Michigan just came out off of the national championship. They lost a lot of players, plus Jim Harbaugh and some more staffers. This is rough for Michigan right now. It would just be, and like I said before, for a national champion to come back and look this bad, we haven't seen this since LSU a few years ago. So, keep that in mind. So, this is an interesting football game. Like I said, this is another one that you're going to want to watch Saturday. Another Big Ten Network game at 6:30 in prime time. There at Michigan. Should be a really fun football game. And one that, again, this is going to be interesting. And so, like I said, very interesting football game up there in Michigan. All right, turning our attention now to Penn State and Wisconsin. And now I'm going to show you the thumbnail just to keep you entertained. So Penn State, Michigan, this is going to be 6:30 on NBC. This season, Drew Aller, you got to give him credit. He's looked a lot better this season. And Penn State, right now, ESPN rankings, they're number 3 in the country. They're 6-0. So Aller, this season, 103 of 146, 1,492 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. You look at Nick Singleton, 63 carries, 434 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then Warren, he's their leading receiver, 40 receptions, 513 yards, 4 touchdowns. And you look at Wisconsin, and keep in mind that Wisconsin is without Tyler Van Dyke, who got hurt against Alabama. He hasn't been playing. He was done for the year. So Locke has been their quarterback. He's 80 of 135, 1,064 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Walker's their leading rusher, I shall say, 104 carries, 565 yards, 9 touchdowns. And then Anthony, the second leading receiver, 13 receptions, 314 yards, 2 touchdowns. So I think what's going to be the difference in this game, I will say this. I think Penn State, again, it's going to come down to Drew Aller in that offense. Penn State, like I said, they've got the offense. They could just blow Wisconsin out. I don't know if it happens on Saturday because Wisconsin, you're playing up in Wisconsin. So this is going to be a fun football game to begin with. And secondly, I think this is going to be one that shockingly will be close. If you look at Wisconsin, The Wisconsin is a team that, with Luke Fickell, they're wanting to go a little bit more air raid, and they've been trying that for a couple of years. And so don't be shocked if Locke throws like 35 times on Saturday. I really do think it's going to come down to both defenses, and then can Penn State's offense really execute. I think Penn State is a really good football team, and against Wisconsin, I feel like it's a game that what Penn State should control, but I feel like it's going to end up being a close football game. That's just my gut feeling here. And I mean, crazier things have happened in college football this season. So I mean, hey, Penn State may end up losing this game. We don't know. So this is going to be a really interesting football game on Saturday. So you'll want to watch that one. And then let's look at Texas and Vanderbilt. So Texas coming off of a loss to Georgia at home. This is one that I think, and you could argue this, okay? You could argue that Vanderbilt's coming into this the same way they came into the Alabama game, and that is you got one of the best teams coming in to your house. Let's go win. And so Texas, I mean, 90.5% of people on ESPN have Texas favored in this game. Do not be shocked if this is a trap game. Now, Texas being number 5 in the country, Vanderbilt 25. How Vanderbilt got ranked after their poor showing against Ball State, it's all about their win against Alabama. I'm just being honest. That's the reason why Vanderbilt's even in the rankings, because they beat Alabama. If they didn't beat Alabama, then they wouldn't even be thought of within 5. But it's the AP. They looked at it. They're like, hey, we got to rank Vanderbilt. So that's the reason why. Again, I think just like in the Alabama game, Diego Pavia is going to be a big difference for Vanderbilt. You think about it. This guy, he likes to think that he plays a lot like Johnny Manziel. Now, I would agree with that to an extent. He is a threat when it comes to being mobile, because he can throw the ball, but then if he needs to do it, he will get out and run and get some and make a play. So for Texas, I think you've got to be able to play against that mobile quarterback. And then for Texas, really, if you think about it, Quinn Ewers had a rough game against Texas. I mean, not Texas, but against Georgia. Georgia's got a great defense. This should be a game where Quinn Ewers looks at it and he's like, okay, this is a game to get right. Plus, you think about it, he came back a couple weeks ago against Oklahoma from the injury. This is one I think he's going to be like, okay, I got to go prove myself in this ball game. So I think it's an interesting football game on Saturday. I think both quarterbacks are going to be huge in this ball game. I think quarterback play is huge in a lot of these games. So I think, like I said, quarterback play will be big in this football game. And we'll see. Maybe Arch Manning comes in the game for Texas. We don't know. We'll have to just wait and see. So that one's going to be very interesting. And our final game to recap or preview, I shall say, Nebraska and Ohio State. Now, Nebraska, like I said, they're coming off of a terrible showing against Indiana, 56-7. But you're going on the road to Ohio State. And Ohio State, they're coming off their loss to Oregon a couple weeks ago because they were on bye week this past week. So this is going to be an interesting football game. The reason why I say it is because Nebraska looks like a team that is they're mad, and they just got embarrassed on national TV against Indiana. I think a lot of people are going to look at I think a lot of people are going to say, hey, Ohio State has a huge advantage here. I think this is going to be a close game just because Nebraska is going to be mad and they're going to want to play hard football. Now, Dylan Raiola, I don't foresee him having another bad game like he did against Indiana. I'll say this. I think he comes out, and I think he's slinging that football around the field. I think, really, you look at it, I think he is going to come out and probably have maybe his best game of the season. So I'll say this. I think Nebraska, people are going to say they're down and out, but I think Nebraska is going to come into Columbus, Ohio, and they're going to give Ohio State a run for their money. Now, do they win this game? I don't know. But here's the thing. Ryan Day can't win a big game. At least he hasn't in a couple of years. And I would think this is a little bit of a big game considering the fact that you just lost to Oregon. You're coming off a bye week, and you got Nebraska, who, I'll be honest, like I said just a second ago, any given Saturday, any team could look good. And Nebraska could show up on Saturday in Columbus and really give Ohio State some trouble. So I'll say this, Ohio State, this is a game you got to go take care of business. If you're Nebraska, as long as you keep the score close, you have got a chance to win this ball game. But you got to keep it close, and you got to make Ohio State really have to beat you. So that is pretty much all of my preview for tonight. This is a shorter show than what we had on Monday, but this is a preview show, so it should be a little bit shorter. And so, folks, we are here on a Wednesday night, and it is time to reveal what game I'm going to be doing this week. And yes, I'm doing a game, and I haven't done one in quite a while. So, hey, without a doubt, I'm going to go to full screen right here. And so here you go. We're going to be doing Louisville and Boston College Friday night, 6:30, right here on Saber Broadcast Network. It's going to be an electric game. Both teams, really started out the season pretty hot, and then they've kind of struggled these last few weeks. But I think this game's going to be interesting. Louisville, if you remember this past week, they made it interesting against Miami. Boston College, of course, they've been interesting the whole season, nearly beating Missouri. So, hey, we got a good football game on Saturday or on Friday night for you. So you want to tune in and see us. So, folks, that's all we got for tonight. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you again later. Good night, everybody.